My mind goes blank when I speak English. I know all of these words, but I forget them when I speak. I don't know how to use these words in real life. What do? You need to stop memorizing vocabulary lists. Why? It is the worst thing you can do to yourself while learning any language. Endless lists of words are the source of your problem. In today's video, I'm gonna give you 3 reasons why you should stop memorizing vocabulary lists. Every reason is followed by a practical solution. We have a lot to talk about. Reason number 1, why you should stop memorizing vocabulary lists. That's a big one. I want to be honest with you guys. We all as humans are a little bit selfish, aren't we? Think about it. When something is completely new to us, it's not relevant to our reality, we tend to just ignore it. The brain does exactly the same with English words that are not about us. Have a look at this list, and let's say you live in a small town and take the word crowded. As this word isn't relevant to your life, it can be more difficult to remember it. Now imagine 300 words like this one. What result are we going to get? Well... Oh, one more thing. Here we can see the phrase good at. Imagine I see it for the first time in my life. I'm good at cooking. I am good at cooking. I have good at cooking. Or maybe I am good at cooking. Well, I don't know. How do I use this? When we see a word or a phrase for the first time, we have no idea how to use it in a context. We're not robots to memorize millions of words at the same time. We have lives and emotions. We are not an AI. So let me tell you the truth, my friend. You are being frustrated with English because of the lack of context and emotional connection. What do? Learn as kids do. How did you learn your first language? Think about it. By copying your parents and other family members. It happened naturally. What can you do now? We want to recreate this feeling. In order to do that, we will create the whole sentences with each and every word we learn. We need to make sure that we know the context behind the sentences. We need to create emotional connections. It's not just theory, guys. Yo hablo español y aprendí español en España, pero lo aprendí de la vida. Nunca tenía un libros de español, no tenía casi clases de español y la gramática en realidad nunca la he aprendido. ¿Y sabes qué? Esto es maravilloso porque yo me mudé a España y conocí a mi novio y pues simplemente así empecé a hablar español. Yo nunca aprendí las palabras o gramática, yo siempre aprendía frases y la cosa más importante era observación, que yo observaba cómo se comportan los nativos, cómo producen las palabras, cómo se les mueve la boca incluso, y simplemente les copiaba así, o sea, sin pensar, y a veces ocurriera que yo repetía todas las frases y eran como situaciones muy particulares y de repente mi cerebro sabía qué decir y yo, ¿pero cómo paso? Y ahora ves, estoy hablando español, estoy hablando fluidamente porque ni lo pienso, porque aprendí oraciones, aprendí frases, nunca he aprendido palabras de vocabulary lists como mucha gente aprende en inglés. This is how I learned Spanish in just 7 months to full fluency by using the methods that I'm talking about in this video. So trust me, it works. When I was speaking Spanish right now, I realized that I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not thinking about any grammar. Obviously right now I'm speaking English and I'm speaking slower. Why? You know why? Because I'm so afraid of making mistakes that I don't want to make any mistake, because obviously I teach you English, so I need to be very, very careful about my mistakes. But I tell you something, you can be like me in Spanish. You don't need to be perfect, you don't teach anybody. I teach you, that's why I want to be really careful about my mistakes in English. But you don't have to be. What happened when I was learning Spanish? I was creating a lot of emotional connections. Obviously, I was learning Spanish while speaking to my boyfriend. This is how the emotional connection became stronger and stronger. But don't get me wrong, I was creating context for everything that I was learning. This is the key to success in reality. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of methods that are extremely useful. But in reality, creating context for everything you learn, for me, Number one. I would say one more thing, the observation. I observe native speakers all the time when it comes to English and when it comes to Spanish. Right now I'm in the US, I'm in California, and I observe Americans all the time. Everywhere. I go out to have some meal at a restaurant. I observe them. I listen every sound that they produce. So I think that creating context and observations are extremely important. When I was teaching English in a Spanish school, I was working with just Spanish native speakers. I was the only one from a different country. I'm from Poland, by the way, so I also speak Polish, but that's my mother tongue, so I'm not gonna speak Polish here. If you want me to speak Polish, you can just ask me on Instagram. My Instagram is here down below. Anyways, I was observing my co-workers. I was talking to them and my Spanish was really broken at the time, and I was just observing them and copying everything that they were saying. I was just copying. So basically, observe and copy everything you hear. So this is how we're gonna help ourselves with input. Input is watching, listening, reading. This is what you want to do if you want to speak any language. You need to listen, you need to watch, you need to read. This is how our brains create associations and memorize things a lot faster. And what's more important, our brain will remember these things for a long time. It brings me to reason number two. Reason number two, why you should stop memorizing vocabulary lists. A lot of students memorize hundreds of words just to pass the exam, but then they are unable to use these words in real life. It creates an English aversion. Unfortunately, this is the approach in many schools. That's why a lot of students come to my classes and say, Veronica, I'm so afraid of speaking English. Help me. They have a language speaking barrier. They are so afraid of speaking. They've been studying for hours, but after all, they cannot speak. They cannot use these words that they've been studying. Can you relate? I definitely can. I was forced to use this ineffective method when I was a teenager in high school. Thank God that it's over and now I can learn languages on my own terms. Reason number 1 and 2 are connected because when we lack context and emotional connection, we will not remember these words for a long time. By just memorizing the list of words without practice, you just train your short-term memory. Let me say one thing, vocabulary lists can be helpful, but only for a short-term memory, meaning they are not very practical. What can you do? Quality over quantity. Doesn't matter how many words you know, the question is, how many can you use? The solution is simple, guys. Less is more. In the solution number 1, I mentioned input. Watching, listening, reading. Use all of these actions. For example, imagine yourself watching your favorite show and suddenly you hear some words and phrases that you don't really understand. Catch just from 3 to 5 words from your favorite show or an article, but do it well, okay? Find connections, create sentences, do it well. Make sure that you really do practice these 3, 4, or 5 words. Let's imagine that yesterday I was watching my favorite TV show and suddenly I heard the word sensitive. I haven't heard this word before. So I Google it, I check it, make sure that you do it in English. I'm gonna explain that in a second. Anyways, you understand this word. And now you ask yourself, how do I create a connection? For example, I'm a very sensitive person. When I see animals suffering, I can experience a lot of physical pain. Make sure that you create as many sentences as you can in reality, just to create as many connections as you can. The next sentence of mine could be, I don't know, my father is not a sensitive person. And I could continue the story around the word sensitive. Let's go back to the point when I said, do it in English. Do not check anything in your native language. Please do not do that. If you understand this video, you are at least at A2, B1 level. It means that your English is already pretty good. So make sure that you use English dictionaries. For example, Oxford Learners dictionaries. Of course, this video is not sponsored. This is the dictionary I use and I find it really useful. Okay, so do not check anything in your mother tongue, because as you can see on these lists, everything is translated to another language. In this case, it's Polish because it's from my Polish student. Do you remember when I said that the method that they use at schools is really ineffective? So this is the method. Do not do that to yourself. Don't learn words like this, please. You need to understand them in English, because if you understand them in English, you're gonna think in English. It means that your mind is not gonna go blank when you speak to a native speaker or in general when you speak English. From now on, we do not memorize hundreds of words a day. Okay? You got this? We learn less but more effectively by creating connections. Reason number 3 why you should stop memorizing vocabulary lists. Passive learning is not fun. Our goal is to speak English confidently and clearly, isn't it? Can you achieve that when you are bored? Who likes to be bored? Look at this. It's so overwhelming, monotonous, not efficient. We learn a lot, but without the feeling of progression. It's so passive. We don't engage our brains actively. Imagine that I want to be fit, but I'm just gonna sit here on this armchair and move my leg. Am I going to become fit? I don't think so, because becoming fit means that I need to get myself together, go outside, run a little bit, do some workout, home workout, go to the gym, whatever. I need to eat healthy. I cannot just sit and move my leg. It's not gonna change anything. I'm not gonna become fit. So here it's exactly the same. You need to learn English actively. Solution: passive into active. We already agreed on creating emotional connection, the context, connecting the words to our daily lives. But let's try one more thing. Let's play with the language, connect it to our hobbies and find pleasure in it. For example, a couple of months ago, I was in Bali and I love yoga, so I decided to attend some yoga classes. And of course, they were in English. So I learned a lot of new vocabulary when it comes to, different small muscles in our body, different postures, position, yoga positions, words that I didn't know before because they are used in a specific niche. So make sure that you choose something that you like, that is going to be useful in your life, and connect it to some kind of hobby. One more thing that comes to my mind is, for example, that I'm in the US right now, but I'm in California, and here there are a lot of Spanish speakers. So when I go to a restaurant, I usually order food in Spanish, because now I speak a lot of English, so I feel like I really need to practice my Spanish. So I go out and I speak Spanish. I'm really lucky because there are a lot of native Spanish speakers here as well, so I can practice my Spanish. But you need to find your own way, because yes, it's an advantage for me that I'm here and there are a lot of English speakers and Spanish speakers here in the US, obviously. But you can find your own ways, depending on your hobby, depending on country where you are right now. But just find some fun and connect it to language learning. To wrap this video up, guys, we say bye-bye to monotonous tasks of memorizing English vocabulary lists. Would you add something to this video? What do you think? I would love to know your opinion and chat with you in the comments section. If you find this video useful, subscribe to my channel and give this video a like to support my work. I see you on my Instagram, where I share my lifestyle. We learn a lot of new things together. I'm a full-time traveler and a digital nomad, so if you would like to know something about that, I see you on my Instagram, and I hope that I see you in my next video. Bye bye!